All right. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Yossi.
Lovely to have everyone here. I'm just going to share the screen, PowerPoint. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, look at that, Yossi. Fancy.
Yes,
So-
my kids helps me, believe it or not. When it comes to technology, at this point, my children know better than me. So it looks very simplistic, but it actually took a lot of work to figure out how to set up the room in a way that the projector works without people blocking, and in a way that can have the computer connected to the projector as well as also connected to the Zoom. So the people that are on Zoom. So Baruch Hashem, we'll see if it all crashes down. For now, it's working. So we'll do a quick l'chaim before we start. And ironically, because we're learning about life and death, but we'll see soon that they're connected. So we'll start with the l'chaim. Welcome to everyone here, both those that are here in person and those that are here on the Zoom. So please help yourselves to the refreshments on the table. And without further ado, we're going to go into it, and we will embark on a journey. So we will start. You can open up your books to page 2.
Page 2.
So the rabbi's custom is we always start with a joke. So there was a couple on a date, page 2. There's a couple on a date, and the man, he had this sort of backup plan that in case it goes awfully wrong, he told his friend beforehand. He said, "Call me at about 8 o'clock, and in case I don't want to, I want to get out of it, just call me, and I'll make up that you'll make up that my grandfather died, and I'll have a way to excuse myself." So lo and behold, they're sitting there, and he's hating every minute. He wants to leave. He doesn't want to be on the date. And his friend calls him at 8 o'clock, and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I have a phone call." He goes out for a minute, and he comes back, and with a very sort of sad face, and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry to tell you, but my grandfather just died, and I'm sorry. I have to go." So the girl turns to him and says, "Thank God." So he's like, "What do you mean?" So she says, "Because if your grandfather wouldn't have died, then my grandfather would have had to die." So we're all here to learn about life and death. But the question is, why did each and every one of us, including myself, why did we all come here tonight? There's so many different, reasons. It's first of all, it's very fascinating. It's also can be many other things. Why? I think if we can just start by opening up those that want to share. I would like this to be interactive for those that want to share. Those that don't want to share, you don't have to, of course. But anyone who wants to just share, like, what is it that you're curious about? Because, if it helps me understand what it is that you're looking to learn, or what you're curious about, or what's the reason why we're here tonight, why you're here tonight.
I can start. I've been, looking at Kabbalah for a number of years, many years, and all sorts of journeys into the soul, and all sorts of, the classic questions of what the purpose of life, and where's it all coming from, where it all started, and all these sort of things are very interesting to me, and I'm more interested in interpretation, Jewish interpretation of the stories that seem far-fetched in the Torah, and they all have some sort of meaning,
Right.
in the Torah, for example, an explanation, that decoding. Are you on your own?
No, I'm just closing the door. So yeah, that's true. The Kabbalah is definitely, we'll be diving very much into the Kabbalah. And there's a lot of fascinating things we'll be definitely learning. Anyone else?
Can you just tell us who you are, so we can flow?
I'm Odi. I've seen people seen you here. I've been here twice before, and we live in Farnham. There's a bit of a schlep, not as much as you. How long does it take you to get here? 40
Half an hour.
Half an hour, same for me. Yeah, and my wife is not here today. So she's the sociable part of the family. She is.
Rina and Yael, just want to check if you can hear.
Yes, I can hear.
You can hear, okay.
Yes.
Yael, you can hear fine?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to check. Anyone else want to share what are you hoping to discover, learn, what attracted you, what drew you to come to this course? Yes, Monique?
It's similar to Woody, not for many years, but for quite a while I've been into the Kabbalah, Hasidic Kabbalah, and then it's amazing how much you can learn about the soul. That not only the soul came back many times, and you have to you have a certain purpose every
So you're
time.
talking about reincarnation.
Yes, I like to know. It's not that I'd like to know. Probably it's difficult, but they said sometimes it's possible. It would be nice if you can find out why you came back for. But sometimes it's very difficult to know why you came back.
What is the purpose why our soul came back?
Yeah, because every time your soul come back, you have a certain purpose to apply, and then you can spend all your lifetime walking completely off the path and not knowing that that's what you were supposed to do. And I wouldn't like to miss my path.
Well, good. Well, the good news is for you, Monique. So Monique wants to come to learn about why my soul, specifically each and every one of our soul, came down with a purpose. Reincarnation. Do we believe in reincarnation? Do we not? Is it the same as what other religions or cultures believe about reincarnation? And the answer is no. Spoiler alert. But we actually have a full lesson that will be, I think, the fifth lesson, or the fourth or the fifth, that will be dedicated to that topic. Anyone? Yes.
I'm Cindy. So basically.
Sorry, what's your name?
Cindy,
Cindy.
right. So I live locally, sort of in Cobham. Okay, so I never learned any of this in Hebrew school when I was a kid, up to Bat Mitzvah. Nobody talks about this stuff. It's never talked about ever in my life. And it's like a long time coming, right? Like, I don't think I should have had to wait to this age, but thank goodness Yossi decided to bring up the topics. And I thought, like I had no idea, like, about what the Jewish ideas are on a lot of things.
And I don't know about you, but since the COVID has been a blessing in disguise, and I'm sure that's why up there it sent us, because many people did teshuva during the COVID, and lots of courses online just explode on the website because no one could go to the synagogue, no one could be in group to meet people. So it was lovely to see how many groups have been created on online, and how many, I mean, a number of rabbis have discovered really, really good one. And that really helped me to, since the COVID, that's when I really did all this great discovery. I would have liked to be, it's a shame it wasn't before, but sometimes it wasn't meant to be.
So
That's how
I would never ever look to myself for this, because I wouldn't have known where to find it, and I don't like listening to other people. I think I like it right from the source, so I think that I trust. So I feel this is really a great topic for me. Also, I'm ill, and so these are topics I'm gonna have to deal with, and I wouldn't mind learning what some perspectives are, because I actually literally have no idea. I'm looking forward to it, and who knows what could help people. And yeah.
Well, thank you, Cindy, for sharing. Anyone else?
I'm really happy that there's other people to discuss scripture with. As you know, I've been quite alone on my journey, doing my study alone, because I don't want any other Jewish people around in my family weren't really into scripture like I was. So I'm really looking forward to just opening my mind and my soul and just finding out more. And it's just nice to there'll be other people on the journey.
Absolutely. Lovely. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm like Audi, originally from Israel. I lived here for about 40 years. I live in Chilworth, which is near Shear, which you probably know.
Yeah.
Shear.
Oh, Shear.
Shear.
Yes, Dorking, yeah.
Why am I here? So I promised myself a very long time ago. I mean, I lived in Israel. I've lived always in the kibbutz.
Where
Kibbutz Lochamei Getaot, and then Misgav Am.
You promised yourself.
I promised myself that I'm going to do some Talmud and Kabbalah when I retire.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, I haven't retired yet.
Baruch Hashem. We'll be learning about that. Why it's important not to retire.
But I think
Yes.
I think the time has come, and the opportunity came along with Yossi and Odi. So yeah, I'm here basically
With open mind.
to deep into the roots to understand us better,
Mhm.
even though I'm not necessarily a believer.
You don't have to
So,
be. You can
no,
wait to
so
be.
what
But
I'm
if
saying
it's-
is I come from it
Yeah,
because of my admiration, really, how all the Orthodox resources and everything related to the written word and the whole language thing. That is the bit that really fascinates me. I understand that it can't be really common because not everyone speaks Hebrew, and then Yossi tells me that the Talmud is in Aramaic anyway. But this is why I'm here.
that's beautiful.
Thank you. Anyone from the Zoom? Yeah, Rena?
And so I came because I'd like to refresh myself with all of this. I was raised, הלכתי לבית ספר דתי, so I was in a religious school until the 8th grade. We didn't really explore the Kabbalah. My background is like my family's Moroccan, but I'm born in Israel, first generation. And it's something that's always been part of me, with the sages, with our sages and our mystics. And I've always looked to the stories of our holy men. And I only just found out recently that my grandmother was actually raised by a tzaddik, by the chief rabbi of Morocco, that she left Taroutant and was raised in Saleh by the chief rabbi.
Wow.
So I want to reconnect with the essence, to the essence of the purity of our souls, what we're supposed to be doing in our life. We do have a purpose, and I just remember my grandmother used to say that we're all visitors in this life, and it's what we do from beginning to end. But we're all visitors here, and the main important thing is to have your purpose and to fulfill it.
Well, it's very wise words, and we're so happy to have you here, Rena, and Yael also online. Okay, so we will probably be here all night if we keep at this pace. So I will try to do the impossible, which is to try to keep an eye on the clock while trying to, discuss all of these very, very deep and broad subjects. So if I were to give you in a nutshell, what we're hopefully going to be exploring in the next 6 weeks, it basically boils down to 3 topics. There is the philosophical and psychological and theological aspects, like, is there a purpose to death? Or what happens to the soul after death? And is there heaven and hell? Does Judaism believe in reincarnation, like Monique, you're asking? So that's sort of one pillar. So if I show you here, I'll see if this works. So we've got the philosophical aspect. Okay, then we have the emotional aspect, which is both facing one's own mortality, which can be scary and it can be a source of anxiety. And then it's dealing with, sometimes when we're left with the loss of a loved one, whether that's sudden or not sudden, or it's a parent or a spouse or a child or relative, dealing with that emotional pain and the void and the loss. That is tremendous emotional pain. And believe it or not, the Torah has tremendous wisdom to help with the emotional aspect. And then last but not least, we have the practical aspect, is like, what do we actually do? What actually happens when a person dies? What is the rituals that we do from the moment of death till the burial and the Shiva? And what are how do we, both for oneself, how to prepare for this eventuality, and with others as well? What do we do, and sort of all the traditions and the reasons behind them, and that whole sort of aspect. So we're going to be actually not sort of sequentially, but we'll be discussing all of these different elements and these 3 sort of pillars throughout the course. So again, to start with a question, what feeling does the subject, so if you had to sort of one word that comes to mind when you think about mortality, what is the one word that it evokes in you that comes to mind?
Inevitable.
Inevitable, okay.
Pain.
Pain.
Be patient with me. Take your time.
So that's like kind of like almost trying to
Yeah.
to
Delay the-
delay it and avoid it.
That's very Jewish, Audie.
So there's something
We've got more
very,
important things to deal with now.
For one word, what would you describe your feelings about mortality? And I said, be patient with me.
As far as you know.
yeah. So if I can add, there's also one word is final. Throughout life, we go through many different types of challenges. It could be financial, relationships, and life is full of ups and downs. But one of the common denominators is that all of these ups and downs that we have, at least theoretically, there is an afterwards. Okay, we're going through a rough patch. We'll get through it. As they say in Hebrew, Gam ze yavar, this too shall pass. You're going through a hard time. You go to sleep, you wake up, tomorrow's another day. But then there's that one thing that it's like when you're playing, a game, game over. There is no, it's the end.
Yeah.
And that thought is very scary. And there's actually a word for this in a therapeutical word that they've come up with. And that is, you can see here on page, in your books on page 3, as a word, thanatophobia. Thanatophobia means the fear of death. It's a very specific thing, which is unlike other fears, specifically the fear of death. And this is something that, for better or for worse, human beings are unique in the sense that we have the gift of self-awareness, which means that, nowadays there's everyone is talking about AI and the power of computers, and they're taking over jobs, and they're so smart and it can do so many things. But there's one difference, that AI will never be the same as a human brain, and that is self-awareness. AI doesn't, computers or animals or any other machines, they don't have this idea that they can sort of detach themselves, remove themselves from their own reality, their own existence, and almost as if like looking at it from a projector, from in a movie, and looking at your body, at your life from a third person perspective, and looking at it and seeing how from the moment we're born to the moment where we die, and how other people, see us and view us, that self-awareness of us being alive, for better or for worse, that can actually cause us to be able to think about death in a way that no other being can. So the question is, how do we cope with that? But before that, also, how far back does this fear go? Is it just us? We're weak. In this 21st century, we're very weak people, and we have this anxiety. But what about how far back does this go? So we're going to go way back to the very source in text 1 on page 3. This is going back to Gilgamesh, who was the king of the Sumerian city. This is going back several centuries before Abraham, 2800 between 2800 and 2500 BCE. So text 1, would anyone like to volunteer to read in English? Text 1 on page 3. Anybody wants to volunteer to read? Monique? Yeah, you just listen, yeah.
From that, not from another side, the main paragraph.
Yeah.
Mortality has haunted us from the beginning of history. 4,000 years ago, the Babylonian pharaoh Gilgamesh reflected on the death of his friend Enkidu with the words, "Thou hast become dark and cannot hear me. When I die, shall I not be like Enkidu? Sorrow enters my heart. I am afraid of death." Gilgamesh speaks for us all, for all of us. As he feared death, so do we all, each and every man, woman, and child. For some of us, the fear of death manifests only individually, either as generalized unrest or masqueraded as another psychological symptom. Other individuals experience an explicit and conscious stream of anxiety about death. And for some of us, the fear of death erupts into terror that negates all happiness and fulfillment.
So thank you. So this goes way back. It's something that's sort of baked into the human psyche. And over, there's many different cultures and societies have different ways. You know, how do we cope with this fear of death? How do we cope with it?
We don't.
We don't?
No,
Well,
There's different ways. There's no right way and wrong way. There's many different ways. Some people try to avoid it. Some people joke about it. That's a way.
yeah, I do
Some
not-
people embrace it. In some cultures, it's embraced and it's celebrated.
No, I don't think, I wouldn't say I celebrate it, but I embrace it, particularly even more now, but I know that the soul is eternal, and then because it's eternal, and each time you come back, it's for a reason. And what really makes me even more happy, I just hope that we'll be living the Mashiach era, and then we have so much to do before Mashiach comes. So we have no time to lose.
Yes.
So-
Oh, yeah.
So we will be discussing that in a later lesson about reincarnation.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a full lesson all about it. It's fascinating. But we'll leave that for, I think, the fifth lesson.
We don't believe in that. We don't have the same way of believing it in. We have, for us, we separate, we have two souls, one animal soul and one godly soul. And then the godly soul is all of us, all of us have got a pure soul, but we just have to make it out of us and then gradually take it away, the animal soul of us. And that's our work, that's our job. So that's why learning all the halachot and the mitzvot are very important to really purify our soul and our body at the same time.
Yes, thank you, Monique. You're getting definitely ahead of us over here. So, yes,
Well, I think different religions deal with it
true.
in different ways, but they all have within the belief some kind of the soul doesn't go away.
Right.
So in Judaism, maybe, I'm not sure, in Christianity, definitely goes to heaven
Right.
and stay with God, and all you need to do is to redeem yourself last second before you die, and
Right. Okay.
everything is sorted. And the Buddhism is like reincarnation.
So we will see Judaism is actually very unique perspective. It's different than all the other religions, and it's very nuanced, but we're going to discuss it. It will
But the
be
challenge is,
Yeah.
how do you deal with death if you're a non-believer?
right.
How do you deal with
True.
it then?
because you are here.
Exactly. That was-
Okay, now, you are here to make the flowers grow. You are here to bring forth the goodness of the future generations. And your life is in total existence to make this happen. You are here to help the future, to help other generations achieve great things, to become the best that they can be. And that is your purpose. And when you die, you're bringing forth life from your ashes or from the body. You bring forth life.
So that's an answer.
That
I
is
was
the
just-
answer.
I was just.
Okay. So we're going to carry on.
For me at the moment,
Right.
it's you embrace death
Right.
as part of life.
Right.
Yeah, unless he's a non-believer.
That's a non-believer perspective.
Right. Well, we will carry on. Otherwise, we'll definitely be here all night.
Yeah.
So.
It's covered.
So as you can see here on page 4 in figure 1.1, you see the graph of the survey they've done on young adults in America to see how many of them are sort of the afraid of death. And, some are very afraid, some are somewhat afraid, some are not afraid at all. But ultimately, it's only about 25% that are not afraid at all. And 75% have on the spectrum some sort of thing. So a couple decades ago, a group of psychologists developed this idea called terror management theory, which is basically a study into the effect that the fear of death has on the way we actually live. And this is very important. The reason why I'm bringing this up in the beginning of the course is because we thought that we came here to study about death. And you really, I can sort of Jewish rabbi, my job is to always answer a question with a question, which is, well, why are we coming to here to study about death? Aren't there far more important topics to discuss about, let's talk about life. And the answer is that how we think about and our perspective about death actually has a very big effect on the way we actually live in the day to day, which there is a joke, of course. There's a rabbi, a minister, and a priest, and they're sitting there together having coffee, and they're discussing how they want to be remembered at their funeral after they pass away. So the minister gets up and he says, I want to be remembered as someone who was kind to the poor. And the priest gets up and he says, I want to be remembered as someone who visited the sick. And the rabbi says, at my funeral, I want someone to come out to call out and say, hey, he's moving. So obviously it's a joke, but what's the idea is that death and life, they're intertwined. The way there's this sort of friction that we have between, like you said, are we trying to delay the death and push it away? But the way we actually think about it has an effect on the way we live. And we will see that throughout all the different elements of this course, how the different perspectives that we're hopefully going to learn about will have definitely effects on our life. So to give you sort of in one sentence, I have no idea where we're holding over here. So to give you in one sentence, the Jewish perspective is that death is not the end of life, rather it's the beginning of another phase of life. Okay, if I had to sum everything up into one sentence, the Jewish perspective is death is not the end of life, it's the beginning, like you mentioned, you alluded to before, that the soul goes on to another place. So it's the beginning of another phase of life. Yes.
Your son says it all. It's beautiful, by the way. I love that introduction. I don't know if everyone saw that.
No.
Yeah.
I think
I'll send it
yes,
later.
It's short, it says it all. And this is just what you said.
So
The circle of life, and I love the way that that soul comes and goes and everyone you get married, you get a child, and it's just beautiful. You've got to see that.
So again, so this is going to be sort of the premise of the rest of today, is that death isn't the end of life, it's the beginning of a new phase of life, which begs the question, what is life? Because life, the way we know it, death is the end of it. So if we're saying death is not the end of life, then we have to ask, what is life? And if we're asking what is life, then we need to ask, who am I that I'm alive? Who is it that's alive? So that's the sort of the place where we need to understand to be able to answer this question. So, different people are wired. Some people are more psychological, and we look at a person and we think about, look at life, and we say life is it's a mixture of cells and electrical chemicals, and that's what sort of puts us together. Some people are more practical, and they're sort of thinking about is, does the car have enough petrol, or what am I eating for lunch tomorrow? But then when crisis happens, and usually at one point or another in our life, we're sort of it's in our face, where we can't avoid it anymore, and we're faced with the question of who am I and what is my life all about? And we need to sort of do that internal digging of trying to figure that out. So hopefully we're going to now try to discover from a Jewish perspective, what is life? And who is the real I? So you see here, who am I? And we're just going to present from a Jewish perspective based on Kabbalah, who am I?
I have a question.
Yes.
Before Kabbalah, how was this handled?
Kabbalah came from Adam. So from day one, there was Kabbalah. It came in different manifestations till it was written later on in the times of the Talmud. But Kabbalah essentially is the inner, in other words, God created the world with Kabbalah, with the 10 utterances, which is Kabbalah. So it's really, Kabbalah is just it's the inner dimension of the Torah, which it says that God created the world with the Torah. So Kabbalah isn't the sort of thing that someone came up one day and invented Kabbalah. Maybe
Because they didn't discuss it until the 1700s.
it was. So there's the Sefer HaYetzirah was the book of formation written by Adam. So it really goes back to the very beginning.
But didn't from what tell me if I'm getting wrong, you see, from what I learned since I've been studying, they said that the Kabbalah, just like Yossi said, it's only been existed as part of a creation. but it never been written down and displayed to more people. It gradually became now even more now because we are in a Messianic era, but in the 17th or 17th century with Arizal.
Yes. So we're going to read now a quote from the Arizal.
Then he put it in writing with the help of Chaim Vital, who wrote actually whatever the Arizal.
Monique, look at text 2.
Yeah.
Rabbi Chaim Vital. So
Yeah.
Rabbi Chaim Vital, he was the student of the Arizal. The Arizal was a very famous Kabbalist. So I want to pose a question, which is, who am I? And just to explain the question a little bit, you know, we all evolve and change throughout our life. You know, the person that I am today is not the person that I was 10 years ago, and most likely not going to be the person I'll be in 10 years. We change, you know, physically, emotionally, psychologically, our ideas, our beliefs are, you know, they say, you know, couples married and 20 years later, one of them turns to the other and says, you know, the person that you are, that's not the person that I married. So they're different. So the question is, who am I? If we're always changing, who is the real I? Because the real I doesn't change. So who is this I? Who is the real I? What is it? Is it your body? Is it who is the real I?
The soul. The soul is the real.
Okay.
And then we just have to get rid of our ego to really who we really are come out.
We made of,
Yeah.
we made of both nefesh and guf, soul and the body. We made of both of those, and that's who we are. And it's evolving all the time, like you said.
Sure. So let's read text 2. Would someone like to read?
Which page?
Page 5.
What the wise are aware of as well.
Yes, the wise are aware, yeah.
It's not the human being. When we speak of the human being, we are referring to the human's inner dimension. The body is merely a garment in which the soul is attired. During its
Sojourn
in the world.
So this is from Sojourn, like the journey, like so what the Kabbalah is saying is that the real I, in its deepest sense, because obviously we have like an onion, there's so many layers. There's the body, and then there's our personality and all the different parts of us, but those all change, even our body changes, you know. But in the deepest core, Kabbalah is telling us, the Torah is telling us, the real I is our soul. Now, obviously, that begs the question is, what is the soul? Okay.
The soul has to live in this body.
The soul has to live in the body. So we have a soul and we have a body, and then there's this sort of relationship between the soul and the body. So, yes.
The soul can't do without the body, and the body can't do without the soul. That's very important. And the reason why is because God wanted to bring his goodness on this earth. And that's why it's our job, our work, to really bring God on this earth, to really be able to, all of us, purify our soul and make our godly soul a man who bring out who we really are.
Yeah.
To bring God, it's not up to us. It's not who we really are. It's what God is. We all have a piece of God inside all of us, even the people who think they don't believe. And that's so as everyone has got that inside themselves. And sooner or later, if I can tell you, Avi, I will never be able to speak like this until a few years ago. And then I wouldn't say I was not believing in God. I never said that, but I don't think I would say the things I'm saying now. And now it's a path of no return.
So that itself is a proof that
Yes.
we are changing. We are always changing. Our beliefs, our ideas are always changing.
Back to that striking on me earlier in my life, because I'm not getting any younger. And then at the end of the day, I just realized if God didn't want me to know it earlier, maybe I wasn't ready to know it earlier. But when it happened, now I have to grab and just do the best of it. So, but it's I think it's because our job is to bring God on this earth. So it's just
So to recap, the Kabbalah is telling us that the body is like a garment. What is a garment? Is something which, you know, right now I'm cold, I'm wearing a jacket, I can take it off. Imagine even like an astronaut, for example, who goes up to space and he needs to be wearing his what is it called? The
It's-
spacesuit. Literally to survive. So like it's almost like a part of him at that time. But ultimately, you know, when he comes back down, he can take it off and he can put something else on. So the Kabbalah is saying that our body is like a garment to the soul. The real I, the real self is the soul, and the soul comes in the body. The body is like a garment for the soul, and they're living together during this time here on earth. But we have to really now understand what is the soul, because we're using a word, soul, okay? But what is a soul? A soul is a spiritual thing. And you know, us, since we're physical people and we have physical frames of reference for everything, it's almost like a blind person can never really understand colors. We can't really fully grasp spiritual matters. So we're only relying on what the sages are, what the Torah is telling us, but we don't really know what a soul is. But we do know certain things about the soul. So we don't truly grasp the soul, but there are certain things about the soul that we can understand. So here's now a video meditation, which is part of the course, to give you an analogy to try to understand the soul and the relationship between the body and the soul. So attention to the screen.
Hi, this is Rabbi Shestab. Welcome to a series of meditations for the course Journey of the Soul. The purpose of these meditations is going to be internalizing some of the deeper ideas that are a little bit difficult to grasp. And generally, we will try to do so by way of visualization, trying to picture symbols that represent some of the ideas and that we can focus on briefly so that we can begin to connect on a deeper level to these ideas. To begin with, the entire notion of life is a challenging concept because it is so intangible. We're used to relating to things, to that which we can see, to that which we can touch. And life is completely intangible. How do we begin to relate to that which is unseeable, untouchable? How do we envision, how do we see the unseeable? So if you will, I'll ask you to begin right now, however you're most comfortable doing so. Close your eyes, keep your eyes open. Envision a musical instrument, a physical object, let's say a piano made of wood and wires, something you can look at with your physical eyes, you can touch it with your physical hands. It's a physical object. Now, the piano is merely a thing. A person comes over to the pianist sits down and begins playing a beautiful song. Now, this song stirs your soul. Try to hear it. Hear the music. Where is the song? Can you see it? Can you touch it? You can see and touch the piano. You can't see or touch the song. And now the song is over and the piano is standing there. If you'll open up the piano, will you find the song? Think now how everything in the world is matter and energy. The matter is the physical object that we see, the piano. The energy is the intangible, the song. We'll take a half a minute now to try to think of ourselves in these terms. Think of your body as the instrument, the physical object that can be seen, that can be touched. And think of the life you live as the song that is being played through the instrument. We'll take half a minute right now to see and hear the piano and the song, the body and the soul.
I'm going to stop it there just for the sake of time. But we understand the idea. I just want to check, did you guys hear it? On Zoom, you were able to hear? Because I forgot if I set up the settings that you can hear the audio. Okay, great.
Yes.
Perfect. Baruch Hashem. I was just hoping that you were here. So we have a body and we have a soul, and they're living together, which, as we're going to see soon, is a very interesting relationship. And the Kabbalah tells us that the real me is my soul. That's the song. It's in the body, it's in the piano, but the real me is my soul. But we want to know, what is the soul? So we have to come back to the source, to scripture, really Genesis, the first verses in the Torah, when God created the very first being. We're going to find a hint to understand. Like we said, we can't fully understand the soul, but there's certain aspects of the soul that we can understand. So in text 3a on page 6, when we speak, we have the story of, so far, who am I? Not my body, not my knowledge, intellect, emotions, and desires. I am my soul. Okay. So we have the story of creation, how God created Adam. And we're going to read the text from the Torah, and we're going to we discover something very interesting. Would someone like to read text 3a on page 6? Deborah, would you like to read?
God formed the human soil from the earth and breathed into his nostrils. And neshama. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Neshama.
Say it again.
Neshama.
Neshama.
Thank you. Sorry. Neshama life, and the human being became a living being.
So this is how God formed Adam. Now, the same day, this is the 6th day of creation, a couple hours earlier, God created all the animals. So carry on, Deborah, text 3b. How did God create the animals?
Said, let the earth bring forth living beings of different species. Of different species, cattle, creeping things, and beasts of the earth, according to their species. And it was so.
So if you can look and compare these two stories of how God created the human being versus the animals, can you identify any differences between the two?
Because in the animals, we just came up from the earth without that much of God working to it, but he took a lot of work with the creating humans.
And what was the work that he took to create the humans? What was the? He blew into his nostrils the soul. So we find something very interesting. When it came to the animals, he just created them. So like you were saying before in the meditation, everything in this world has the matter and the energy, body and soul, including animals as well. There's the body, and then there's the soul that makes the animal alive. But human beings is very distinct. In what way? God created it in 2 stages. He didn't just create human beings. First, he created the hardware, the body. It was a dead body from the soil. That's actually the word human in English comes from the Greek word humus, which means soil, which comes just like a Hebrew word for Adam. It comes from Adamah, that the man was created from the soil. That was the body that came from the earth. That's where man was created. But then that was phase 1, the hardware. Then phase 2, the software. God blew the soul through his nose, and then he became a living being. What is the idea of that? Why did it happen that way? What does that show?
Is it when we're talking about the breath that he breathed into the nostrils, would that be considered Ruach HaKadosh?
Yes, and it's obviously this is a metaphor because God, spiritual, it's not physical breath, but the idea of breath is when you breathe, when you speak, can someone speak? Can you speak for a long time without stopping? Well, some people can. But try to breathe. How long can you breathe for? I'll try it. Maybe 10 seconds. Why? Why is breathing? Speaking, you can speak for hours on end, but breathing, you breathe for 10 seconds because breathing, it comes from your lungs, it comes from a deeper part of you, and therefore it comes from your soul. You can't breathe for so long. So the soul of a human being, the only place where it says that God blew the soul is by human beings. And that's why, because the soul of a human being is a part of God himself. It's a part of the essence of God. So what we see from here is actually something very interesting, is that the soul existed separate from the body. First there was a body, and then the soul came in it, which means the soul existed, and the soul was then blew into the body. So says now text 3c, this is the Chizkuni, one of the commentators. Yeah,
I read it.
yeah.
And it's, I said, I read it, that, so, and it said that all the souls that have ever existed have just been waiting up there in where heaven or wherever, and then you just have to be allocated. But that does not explain the population increase, that would kind of indicate that there's probably billions of people or souls up there just waiting to come down.
Amazing question. And we will answer that question in depth in the session about reincarnation. It will come up in there.
Oh.
Very fascinating, but good question. So says the Chizkuni, one of the commentators in text 3c. Deborah, maybe carry on because it's sort of it's the same point.
God did what he had not done with any other creature. He blew into Adam with his Holy Spirit, the neshama that is immortal and does not perish when the body dies.
So what he learns out from this description of creation is that the soul is alive irrespective to the body. And even after the body passes away, the soul doesn't pass away. So what we see from here, so just to give you a quick funny story is there's a town called Chelm, and you may have heard of it. The people of Chelm, they were not very bright, no. And so they say, we have this custom that once a month we make a blessing on the new moon, right? So the one time, sometimes it's cloudy, you don't see the moon. So one night, the person in Chelm, he was looking up the sky, he sees the moon, and he saw the reflection of the moon in a barrel of water. He saw the moon reflecting very beautifully in the water. So he thought to himself, he's like, oh, we have the moon, I have to catch the moon so it doesn't run away. So he put a cover on the barrel and he said, we caught the moon and hopefully the moon won't go away. So this is obviously as foolish to think, it's just as foolish to think that sort of the soul is almost like sort of trapped and limited to the body, like the moon being trapped in the reflection in a barrel of water. And the reality is that the soul existed before, and the soul, like you see here, the soul does not perish when the body does.
One question.
Yes.
So theoretically, if the body does not perish, but you're brain dead, what happens to the soul?
The soul is still alive.
Is it in the body? I mean,
Yeah.
is it still in the body even though you're brain dead?
Yes.
Your body is fine.
Yeah, so you mentioned brain dead, it's an interesting topic, but halachically, there's a very big discussion, medical ethics, at what moment do we consider death? And it's a very, very important topic.
But I'm talking about the soul.
Right, so halachically, brain dead is not considered dead yet,
No.
because remember we mentioned the breath. God breathed the soul through the nose, so halachically, only once the breathing fully stops is the person.
What happens to the soul?
So the soul is still in the body.
And but it can't express itself.
So it's there, but it's handicapped. Maybe it's not fully expressive, but it's there. And we're going to learn in next week in lesson 2 that it actually there's several phases. It doesn't just leave in one moment. It actually has phases in how the soul leaves the body. But what we see from here, so to recap, the real me is my soul, not my body. The real me, the soul, is eternal. So I am eternal. Have you ever thought of that? I am eternal. We always thought, well, God is eternal, but really no. My soul is a part of God, so I am eternal and that is the real me, is my soul, and my soul doesn't pass away when I pass away. So really, I am eternal.
So if the soul that I have now is eternal, so it's always been eternal. So before I was born physically, that soul was already there. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Even before you were born, the soul was there.
Already the soul that I had.
Since Adam.
Yeah. So now this is actually a very interesting.
What makes it yours?
So listen, this is going to be a very so now that's the next text. So text 4, I'm going to ask to read. Now the next rung in the ladder is to try to understand the relationship between the soul and the body. And this is to understand that I want you to read to yourselves text 4 and 5 together. And while you're doing that, I'm going to play a video of a song, which is a song made out of this medrash, which is a fascinating medrash. Obviously, you have to realize that the medrash, it's a lot of it is sort of not physical, right? But it's the idea, it's the analogy of what happens, the dialogue between the angel of souls in heaven, sending the soul into the body to be born. And while you're reading text 4 and 5,
Yeah, that's.
I'm just gonna play-
that's
huh?
Exactly what I was.
So I'm going to play this video, which is a beautiful song depicting this medrash of the dialogue between the angel in heaven with the soul, discussing the descent, the soul coming down into the body. It's a beautiful song. I have a soft spot for music, and I really like this. So I'll play it. You can watch the song, or you can read the text, or both at the same time.
Come with me, little neshama.
I'm talking about the soul.
Let me hold you in my hand. And we'll fly away, you and I together, to a place down on the land.
To the soul up there.
Come with me, neshama. Don't shy away, do as you're told. There's a little child waiting to be born again. You're to be his spot, his soul. But they're not full now. I don't want to go. There's so much pain on the earth below. It's pain in heaven where it's safe to go. Please don't make me go. You see, I'm so afraid. Oh, with me. It's time you face your destiny. You fly beneath the clouds to show you there is so much you can be. If you're powerful, you see the ship over. Someone there's another prayer. You stay, you answer me. It's all I need to know. Just promise me that I do feel like oh, we can we must live. As I thank you all the live, you will forget me. You're on your own, it's up to you.
The answer was no. No promises. You're on your own. I'm going to stop it there. It's a beautiful song. I'll send it afterwards for those who want to see. But so we see here this sort of this dialogue, this almost like a friction where the soul, it's happy in heaven because the soul is spiritual. And what is there in heaven? Heaven is not somewhere up there. Heaven is, it's here as well. It's a spiritual reality. And the soul in heaven, he's happy. It's bliss. He doesn't want to, have to bother to come down into the body and deal with all the pain and evil and challenges. So he doesn't want to come into this world. So this is why And going back to,
But if the soul has always been there, then it's already a fully formed, fully formed personality. And so it should already know what to expect or what it is. If you are you.
but it doesn't know what's going to happen in the
If you are
world.
you and you don't die, then you're not you, whatever the essence of you is not gonna be changing. So then there's not, maybe, I don't know, I don't get it.
Because we have free choice. So the soul, ultimately the body down here chooses what it's going to do. And the soul somewhat, there was a question someone was asking also, like, what if a person does evil in this world? Is the soul doing evil? The answer is really no. It's the body.
So,
Right.
well, one thing you see.
Yeah.
And they say that was 40 days before you're supposed to go in the baby's body, you are asked, I'd like to know if you asked why you're supposed to be, and it's for everything, when you come,
Right.
when a neshama comes at the baby, you know everything from the beginning of the creation, but once you're in a body, you forget everything and you have to work it out yourself.
Right.
But when you are there, and then are you told what you're supposed to do down there? But obviously you forget when you are there. And then how can you find it back, like I always said before, when you are down there? And also, I've been told that you can choose if you really are prepared to go, to have your neshama going on earth. And can you say, no, I don't want?
No.
No. you have
So if
to-
you read the Medrash on page 8, it doesn't have actually.
So you don't
It's
have free will.
no,
You
it
don't have free
not
will.
whether the soul comes down into this world, it doesn't have free will. It's almost like forced against its will
Against his
to be born. So now what do we see from this medrash is that the real me is my soul. The real me, my soul, is eternal, so I am eternal. The real eternal me is unaffected by birth or death, because in fact the soul doesn't even want to come down into this world. So, and after it passes away, presumably it should be happy that it goes back to heaven, it goes back to paradise, to fun. So that's only half of the coin. Because if we were to stop the lesson right now, we can come away thinking, so death, doesn't matter. We don't care. Judaism, we have this sort of nonchalant, flippant approach about death because the real me is my soul. The soul doesn't even want to be alive. So like, yalla, let's and some cultures, some religions do view it, things like that, unfortunately. And there's actually a very interesting response from a rabbi that lived, just found his name was the Radvaz, who was the first-hand observer of Muslim culture in the 16th century Morocco and Egypt. And he testified that he saw how the people in his culture, they said that it was frowned upon and looked bad when people were sort of grieving and mourning when someone passed away, because that would be an indication that you don't have belief in heaven. So you shouldn't grieve and you shouldn't mourn. And the Radvaz, the rabbi, said that it's wrong. In Judaism, that's not correct. And the question is, then why? If the real me is my soul, and my soul is eternal, and my soul lives on, and my soul didn't even want to come into this body to begin with, it must be happy when it's time to leave. So then why, then is that really the full story? And the answer is actually no, it's not. Trying to make sure we didn't lose our customers from
Because we live in life, not in death. Death doesn't exist actually in our faith, Yossi.
yes.
Death doesn't exist.
I need to share my screen again.
Well, there's nothing to believe in, it's a fact.
No, but it's a fact for us here where we are in our world. But when you really study the Torah, then you don't believe in death anymore. Because
Right.
when they say when we have a when Mashiach comes and later on we will have a resurrection of the dead, no one dies. It's just
I got to
not
plug
solar
it in.
vibration.
Sorry.
And then
Excuse me.
everyone will
I'm going to take this out.
for an eternal life.
Sorry. Thank
It's,
you, Avi.
That's
See, my laptop's about to die, so I'm gonna just charge it.
eternal, but it's present.
I'm gonna apologize to those on Zoom. I'm just going.
About your garment. Right. Let's practically just, we can swap it.
Oh.
Okay. here and there. It is sort of like an environment up to there, anyway. Right, everything can be replaceable.
Apologies, everyone. I'm just plugging in my laptop.
Most of that can be, you can just, sever.
She's amazing.
I think that's it.
Yeah, no, we're not finished. I'm putting the laptop there so that it can charge while everyone is here.
You might use the next one on Zoom, yeah.
Je couldn't prendre his contract, which is too bad. I wish it would be there too, because
All right. So, okay, so I'm going to pick up the pace because I'm aware of the time. We're supposed to finish at 8:30, so we still have 25 minutes. We might go a couple minutes over time if you allow. Go here. Okay, so on the other hand, we know, again, unfortunately, knowing what happens in Israel, we know this very well, how important in Judaism preserving life. Even one single person, we will do anything, we will move a nation to keep, a person alive and to save one life.
even the book.
This is something in Judaism very, very important. And the question is why, right? Well, who cares? The person alive, the soul is going to live on anyways.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Right.
And so let's sort of strengthen this question by bringing a quote from Maimonides in text 6, where it says, page 12. So we know in Judaism we have a culture of life. And if we know that, page 6. I wonder if there's any way that I can bring this closer again. I want them to be able to hear. Can someone read text text 8?
No?
8.
If a non-Jew attempts to force a Jew to violate one of the two last commandments, what did you say, page 12?
No, it's 8, yes? Text 8.
Text 8, yes.
Text 8. A single moment of repentance and of good deeds in this world is greater than all of the world to come. Carry on? No. After 8, what we do?
It's text 6.
No, so we're up to page 13.
Yeah, I've done
So, yeah, this
I've
one.
done the 8, which.
Page 12. Okay.
Page 12.
You read it. Okay, so now I'm just going to see one last chance if I can manage to plug this in. Because I want them to be able to hear me. I just want to see if this will reach over there. Maybe if I put it here. Yeah, no, I just want to see if this will reach
Here you have a shot.
over here.
Everything was working well.
No, it's because my laptop was about to die, so everything would come crashing down, so I need to just plug it in. I do actually, thank you for reminding me. Right here.
Yeah.
That's already been made.
Power.
Thank you, that was a great idea. Sorry, everyone, about that. I told you in the beginning, technical. All right, there we go, we're back live. Okay, so there is a rule that if someone comes up to you with a gun pointed to your head and says, go and eat pork or cheese, but do some sin, or I'm going to kill you. What are you supposed to do?
You can eat.
Yes, because it says that you're supposed to live with the Torah, not die. So preserving a life is even more important than more important than doing than exactly, than eating. There are three exceptions
Yeah.
to that:
Exceptions.
murder,
Yeah.
committing adultery,
Yeah.
and
Poetry.
idolatry.
Poetry.
So those are the three exceptions.
And going to the army.
Yeah,
נמות ולא נתגייס.
it's now to take that further,
So sorry, what are the three exceptions?
murder. So it says, if you don't, you kill him. If not, I'll kill you.
Okay,
So you don't. Forbidden sexual relations and serving idols, like denouncing God, basically like accepting other idolatries.
okay.
Those are the exceptions. Now, other than that, everything else, it says you should better do the sin because life is more important. V'chai behem, you have to live with the Torah, not to die by them. Furthermore, the Talmud says something that sounds very almost extreme in a way. Yeah, here, text 9. It says that before God gave the Torah to the Jewish people,
Page 14? Page 14?
page 14. Before God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, it says God created the universe on a condition. If the Jews accept the Torah, he told the universe, you will continue to exist. And if they do not, I will return you to nothingness. So basically, God said that the Jewish people, by standing by Mount Sinai, accepting the Torah, he said that is so crucial, so fundamental for the universe to continue to exist, that if the Jewish people would say, nah, you know what, we don't want the Torah, then the whole world would have no reason to exist. Thank God we accepted the Torah, we're here today, the rest is history.
One thing I would like to tell you is the Chabad is absolutely amazing. How much you can learn on Chabad.org. I mean, it's phenomenal. Life is not long enough to really discover how much you can learn. I highly advise everyone, honestly. And we saw it with Yossi and Leah, honestly, it's just absolutely amazing. And another thing I learned is the fact that what did you say last? Because before I started to talk about Chabad.org, I lost my wave.
What's your question?
What was you said last, just before I interfered?
That the whole world, if the Jewish people wouldn't accept the Torah, then the world wouldn't have a reason to exist. The whole reason why God created the world. Right.
That when God created the world with hours, the way it works, and then Jews are supposed to pray, do their prayers every day at different time of the day, and the different time of the earth is because the earth to still exist. Every time in the world, some Jews are praying, and then the world still exists because of that. When you know that, I think it gives you so much meaning of life and the creation and everything.
It also makes people hate us.
All right.
Yeah, but we don't know any better.
So you know that
Maybe one day, maybe one day.
so this medrash that we had the beautiful song about this dialogue that the soul didn't want to come down into the body. What's the end of the story? What happened in the end? So if you turn back on text page 13, the end of the story is that the angel of birth tells the soul that this is the reason why you were created, and he sends him off into the body. Okay, so now the other thing which we quoted on from text 5 was we said that this whole world is only like a corridor before the world to come. Prepare yourself. I'm reading now from page 10. I'm going back. Prepare yourself in the corridor so that you may enter the palace. And it says a single moment of bliss in the world to come is greater than all of this world. So try to imagine for a moment your greatest pleasure. Imagine I love pizza. Okay, so imagine all the pizza that I can eat in my entire lifetime stacked up. And I love going on a cruise. Imagine hundreds of cruises. Just take all the pleasures of this world and stack them up and try to imagine, to quantify how much pleasure that all equals to, it equates to. Okay, let's say in numbers it equates to 1,000 numbers of pleasure. So all the pleasures of this world combined, put together, doesn't come to one moment of spiritual pleasure in the world to come. Why? Because all the pleasures in this world are limited, whereas in the world to come, it's limitless. So now, the flip side of that coin. So now turn to page 13. The ethics of the Father continue. A single moment of repentance and good deeds in this world is greater than all the world to come. So we seem very what is the term bipolar, right? We say I'm getting a bit bipolar here. On one hand, you're telling me the world to come, the soul doesn't want to be here, the soul doesn't have to be here, world to come, it's much better, the spiritual bliss and all the pleasure. And then you're telling me at the same time that it's in the same paragraph. It's the next line. It says that one moment of good deeds in this world greater than the whole world to come. Which one is true?
Yeah.
And now let's bring this, make this even more. Turn to page 15. So this is a quote from Ethics of Our Father. Avi, you want to read?
Against your will, you are formed, and against your will, you are born. Against your will, you live, and against your will, you will die.
Seems very confusing, right?
Yeah.
So before the soul comes down into this world, it doesn't want to come. But somewhere sort of midway, it changed its mind, and then it doesn't want to die. Once it's here, it doesn't want to die. Before it comes, it doesn't want to be born. Against your will, you're going to be born. Against your will, you're going to die. Which one is it?
My cheese problem.
And the answer is that it's both. Right? Good answer. It's both. What does that mean? The world to come, the spiritual life, is more pleasurable than this world for the soul. But this world, like, that's where it's at. And it's more important. So this world is more precious than the world to come. So the world, right? So against your will, you are born. Against your will, you are die. The next world is more pleasurable, but this world is more important. So kind of like an example, imagine someone is very anxious. I'll speak for me, public speaking, or someone is anxious about skydiving, or someone's anxious about a new job. On one hand, we're anxious, we don't want to do it, but at the same time, we know we do want to do it because we know that's where it's at. That's what's going to bring me to my greatness. That's what I have to do. I'm going to ultimately be more happy and fulfilled if I do that. So they're both true. I have the fear and the anxiety, and also the exhilaration, knowing that this is the game. You know, we're not watching on the stadium. We're in the pitch. We're the ones playing the game. The soul in heaven, it's like just watching what's happening in this world. But this world, that's the action. That's where it matters. The whole creation, including the spiritual worlds of heaven and paradise, all of that is just here to serve the life that we have in this world. To give you an example, imagine you have a couple. They're getting ready for their marriage, for the big day, the big wedding day. And the groom, he's doing all the arrangements. He's calling the photographer and the florist and the DJ and the hall. And he's organizing, and they're all going to come to be there for the wedding. And then the last moment, the bride gets cold feet. And she says, I'm backing out. I'm not doing it. So now he's left with all of the stuff. He's left with the flowers and the music and the food and the catering. All of this becomes useless. Without the marriage, none of this is needed anymore. And in fact, it's a headache now. How he's going to deal with it? Same thing is, you know why God created heaven? It's only it's a side point. What do I mean? Is God is just. So God doesn't really need heaven. God is Jewish. Jewish people, we like something nuanced. We like something that's sort of not straightforward. We like, God is like that as well. What is he like? What is God like? He wants that we should be in a world where there's temptations, where there's evil, where there's free will, where we can choose this or that. And he wants to see, are you still going to make the right choices? Now I know that you're really mine. That's what he wants. That's why he created this world. And whereas in heaven, there is no free choice in heaven. In heaven, there's only one path. There's no two paths. So for God, that's boring. He doesn't know. So why is there heaven? Why did God create heaven? He only created it because since he's just, and we believe in reward and reward. So if we're working hard, he has to pay us. He has to give us a reward. So heaven it's the reward for the work we do here in this world. That's the reason why there's heaven. But what matters? Being alive in this world and living an ethical life when it's not easy, when we have free choice and we can choose right or wrong. That's what's really important. That's what really matters.
Isn't it important that the reasons why you make your choices, not because you could say, okay, I'm gonna do the right choices because that's the only way I'm going to get into heaven.
No, right, correct.
Right?
So
And
that
that
shouldn't be the
really-
reason.
And that should be the reason,
Sure.
Right.
right?
So that's what I said. It's only because God, it would be sort of wrong for him not to give us a reward. So he does it. But we should do it because it's right and because we want to be in a relationship with God. And not because we're doing it in order to get the reward. Very good. So you see here, you've got the ice cream and the bread. The ice cream might be more pleasurable, but can you live off eating only ice cream? No. So the next world might be more pleasurable, but this world is more important. So that is, now let's circle back to the beginning of the lesson. What is the Jewish answer to the fear of, to thanatophobia, the fear of death? Number one, realizing that death is not the end. Part of the reason why the fear of death is so strong, we said in the beginning, was because all the other anxieties are things that are not the end. You can overcome them. Whereas death, that sort of the fear of sort of also the unknown, what happens after I die, and that sort of could be very anxiety inducing. But knowing first of all, it's not the end. And also at the same time, we also value life more than anything. It doesn't mean that okay, yalla, let me just give up my life. No, like in other religions they do. They'll martyr themselves for heaven. No, Judaism, we don't do that because we value life more than anything. But at the same time, we know that life is not the end. Now here is a really, really interesting story from on page 16, text 11. The previous Chabad Rebbe, Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson of Lubavitch, he lived in the early 20th century in Russia and the Soviet Union, and he was sort of at the forefront of keeping Judaism alive in the Soviet Union, and he fought against the communists. And eventually, he was imprisoned, and he was sentenced to death. And long story, he wrote a whole biography, which is a very fascinating book of his. This is, you see here, the previous Rebbe. You see the picture on the screen? The previous Chabad Rebbe. He was imprisoned, and when he was in prison, he was interrogated, and it's a very fascinating story. Eventually, he was released, and he came to America, but he actually wrote the first-hand account of his story of his life, and this is a very fascinating first-hand account of what he said, which is very relevant to what we're saying. So, anybody wants to read? Daniel, do you want to read?
It's 11.
11, yeah. Have you got it? Or
Yeah, it just takes me a little bit just because it's not.
Page 11?
text 11, page 16. Yeah, okay, yeah, share with us.
So thanks. Okay, it's 11. I arrived for the interrogation at the offices of the Soviet GPU. However, in keeping with my principles, I was not very cooperative. One of the interrogators.
Part of the way that he wasn't cooperative was, even though he spoke Russian, he refused to speak to them in Russian. He said, I'm only speaking in Yiddish, and you need to get me a translator. He was very...
He knew how to deal.
Yes.
But during the Soviet Union, right?
This is in 1927.
All the people in the Baltic countries, they were forced to learn Russian, but when you would speak to them in Russian, they'd only respond back in their native.
Correct, right.
So, one of the interrogators raised a revolver that sat on the desk before him. He looked me in the eye and mockingly said, "This small toy has incredible powers. It causes principles to melt away. It opens mouths. Under its spell, and even mutes have become talkative." I responded, "You're quite mistaken. That toy has an effect on faint-hearted non-believers, those with one world and multiple gods. We, on the other hand, have one God and two worlds. As such, I don't panic at the sight of your toy. It has no effect on me whatsoever."
So he said, you think I'm scared of a gun? He said, yeah, you guys, you got multiple gods. Now, by the way, they didn't believe in God altogether. They were Soviet, they were communists. But what he meant by that is the gods they served is this physical world, the money, the honor, the fame, the whatever it is, the status. Those are all the gods that they were serving. So it's like you guys that you have multiple gods and only one life, you're scared of the revolver. But me, I have one God and I have two lives. I am not scared. And that's not going to have an effect on me whatsoever. What did he mean by that? Did he mean that he didn't care to live or not live? He wanted to live. He had a mission to do in this world. He was keeping the whole Judaism up in Russia. Of course he wanted to live. At the same time, he wasn't afraid of death because he knew that the revolver can only change my body. It can take away my body. But nothing that they can do can ever take away my soul. And at the end of the day, like we said, death isn't the end of life. It's just my soul will go on to another place and it will continue the same journey. What I'm doing here, I'll do there. Whatever God wants will happen. So I'm not afraid. So he can steer death in the eyes and not be afraid. Now, not every one of us is on that level to be able to do that. I would be scared if there was a gun to my head. Yeah, yeah. So that's this sort of summarizes the Jewish approach to mortality. Now we see Judah the Prince, who's the rabbi who wrote the Mishnah, which became the source of the Talmud. So here's a story in text 12 when he was laying on his deathbed.
Isn't so that the story about the coat?
Yes.
He was
Page 17. So, yes. When Judah the Prince fell ill and lay on his deathbed, Rabbi Chia, one of his students, entered and found him weeping. Now, if you find someone crying on their deathbed, would you wonder why they're crying? No, right? But someone like Rabbi Judah, who was a spiritual man, so his student was saying, why are you crying? You know that your soul is going to live on and go to heaven. Why are you crying? So he said, my master, why do you weep? Was it not taught that if one dies smiling, it is a good sign for him, while weeping, it is a bad sign for him? So Rabbi Judah replied, I weep because of my inability to study Torah and observe the commandments after my death. He said, I'm not crying because I'm scared to die because I think that's going to be the end of it. No, but I'm dying because I know, like I said before, the analogy, this world is where the action is. And every moment in this world is precious because just living is a mitzvah. Forget about doing a mitzvah. Just living is a mitzvah, which is why it says that you should desecrate the Shabbat to keep a person alive, even if the person won't be able to keep another Shabbat. So there's a quote in the Talmud that says that you should desecrate the Shabbat in order that the person can keep many more Shabbats in the future. But really, it's more than that, because even if a person, you know that the doctors are saying they can only live maybe a couple more hours, and it's a mitzvah to keep a person alive as long as possible, because just living is a mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
Just living is a mitzvah. Now, this is the last section. So let's over here. So how does this relate to us? Let's now sort of zoom back into today. It's a Sunday evening. Tomorrow I have to get up and go to work. Where does this leave us? Okay. Bezrat Hashem, we should all live long, healthy lives till 120. So where does this leave us to today? So there's a quote from the Talmud, text 13. It says that after the demise, the righteous people are referred to as being alive, which means that even after they pass away, righteous people, they're considered that they're still alive. So I'm going to ask you a question, all of you. What does it mean? What does the statement mean? That the tzaddikim, the righteous men, even after they die, they're alive. What does that mean?
But they're alive up there, but they're alive down there still. That's why we...
Didn't we just say that every person has a soul and our souls remain alive after we pass away? So why is it saying only righteous people? I'm not righteous, I'm not a tzaddik, but
don't have any effect down there once we are there.
but you're saying that the righteous people, they have an effect on the people here. So for example, their memory, their legacy, their influence lives on.
From what I heard, the tzaddikim, when they die, they have actually more effect on this world than when they were alive. That's why they don't
True.
die.
Next week, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So-
Martyr. So you mean?
No, he's saying that after righteous people pass away, they are alive
good deeds.
even more than, because they're not limited by the body. The body is limiting the soul.
Yeah.
But when the soul doesn't have the body, it can express itself.
To be king, you know?
Right, yes.
Oh.
This is why I'm asking you a question. Why does it say tzaddikim?
Yeah.
Didn't we say that everybody, no matter who, their soul, everyone has a soul, and all of our souls remain alive after we pass away because they're immortal. So this is a question, what is the meaning? So there's a little bit of so one meaning is, like you mentioned, Monique, is that maybe the influence that they had on people and their legacy could be great, could be remaining alive. But there is a deeper meaning based on what we studied here, and that is that, as we said before, all of us have a body and a soul. Everything in this world has a body and a soul. This cake has a body and a soul. Now, what's the difference between the body and the soul? The body of everything is what eventually fades. Everything you know, eventually everything physical fades. You buy a new car, you drive it out of the car park, it already went down in value, right? Even a nice wine that goes sort of matures with time, but eventually after, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years, it will become moldy and it will eventually, everything physical, the law, this is the law of physics, everything physical, eventually after maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, will slowly decay. Everything physical. Whereas spiritual, which the true life is something spiritual, is what's like a concept. 2 + 2 = 4. Is that going to decay or is that going to stop being true at some point? No, it's always going to be true because it's a spiritual concept, right? So spirituality is what's truly alive because it remains forever. Anything that's here today and gone tomorrow isn't truly alive. Where true life is something that is here forever. So what does this mean? Is that all of us, we have different parts to us, right?
We have
different parts to us. We have our thoughts, our behaviors, our dreams, our aspirations, the things that we do, our talents, our skills, our hobbies. So let's say I'm a pizza lover. I love pizza. Or let's say I'm a football fan. When I die, does the football fan or does the pizza or does let's say I'm an art collector, does that part of me remain alive? Does that stay? Let's say I'm a person who made bad choices in life and I do bad things, yeah? God forbid. Is that part of me also staying alive? Which parts stay alive and which parts don't?
the Buddhist God.
The answer is that the thing, just like we said, just like the body decays and dies and the soul lives, so the parts of us that were physical and bodily, so the parts that were, whether it's the physical parts or the mundane, those parts of me, they die with the body. But let's say I'm a person who I helps people. That kindness is everlasting. That is part of my soul. That remains alive even after I pass away. So what we're saying is about a righteous person is that by them, even when they were alive, they were living more spiritual lives. It's like a spectrum. They were living more spiritual lives than physical lives. So for them, very little changes when they passed away, because even when they were alive with their body, they weren't focused on their body. They weren't thinking about, am I going to get a 6-pack? They were thinking about, what am I going to do to bring good to the world? What things can, and those things stay on. So that's what it means that righteous people.
Yes, and they said, well, Hebron never was attacked, and then since he passed away, they had some attacks. So it's nothing happened for his soul, and his prayers had an effect on the place he lived.
Right.
Huh?
Correct. So there's a verse, you may be familiar from the Torah. It says, God tells you, I've given you free choice. This is the source of free choice. Text 15, page 20. Would someone like to read? I'll read it. Behold, I've set before you today life and goodness, and death and evil. Choose life. So God is saying you have 2 paths. There's life and death, and you have free choice, but God is commanding us to choose life. So I have a very simple question for you. Which person in their right mind would choose death?
Yeah.
Does God have to tell me to choose life? Of course I'm going to choose life. So this is Rabbi Shalom Dover. You can see here.
Tortured though.
Right, correct. Fine, but it doesn't say that.
Right.
We're talking about the every person. So what he says is the term life, so I'm reading now on page 20. The term life in this verse does not refer to corporeal life, nor does death refer to the result of the soul's departure, for which simpleton needs to be instructed to choose life. Rather, each creation, while alive and fully existent, contains both life and death. So we're saying it's not like when we're alive, that's life, and when we pass away, it's death. Even when we're alive, everything has a life and a death aspect to it. The physical side to it is death, because again, we're defining death as something that's here today, gone tomorrow. That's we're defining death. So the physical is death, whereas the spiritual is what's eternal, and that's life. So everything has life and death to it. So what we're saying is that when we're tomorrow going to wake up and we're going to go by our day to day, we can focus on the physical or focus on the spiritual. Let me give you a practical example. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to make myself some nice breakfast because I'm hungry. I'm going to make myself some food. What am I going to focus on? Am I going to focus on just the taste and the this and the, the physical part of the food? Or am I going to think, No, the energy, making sure I'm eating healthy, making sure that I'm eating in order that I have energy to take care of my family or do what I have to do. So it has a purpose. That is the spiritual element to it. You go to work. Are you working just because you want to make money to have pleasure and to go on vacation? Or are you working because you have a purpose? Maybe you want to help people. Maybe you want to support your family. So that purpose is the spiritual side of your work. Everything that we do, we can focus on doing it just for the pure physical or the pleasure. So here, the life aspects of the spiritual identity, whereas the death aspects are the physical pursuits. And therefore, really, it's not like an all or nothing thing. It's not like either you're this or you're that. Either we're physical oriented people or we're spiritual oriented people. It's a spectrum. It's a question of where are we on the mortality spectrum? Because again, the more we focus on everything that we do in our daily lives on the soul, meaning the soul, the purpose, why we're here, the purpose of why we're doing this, why we're doing each thing, we're eating and we're working and everything that we're doing. The more we focus on the purpose, that is the soul, that is immortal. Whereas if we focus only on the physical, the pleasure, that's mortal. So it's where are we on the mortality spectrum? And more importantly, which direction are we going in? None of us are perfect. I definitely enjoy a good steak, right? But the question is, maybe tomorrow I'll try to remember to think more about the things that are gonna live on even after we pass away. What are the things that are going to leave a legacy? The things that are, helping another person. That is a mitzvah, is eternal. Those sort of things. So just to finish off with a one last video, which is a beautiful story, and it's also another song actually. So we have a lot of song today. But it's a story of the Maggid of Mezrich, the great Hasidic master who lived a very simple life. He lived in a he had a hut and he had no furniture, and he had the ability to. His students would happily give him money to live a wealthy life, but he didn't want it. He wanted to live very, very simple. He had his logs was the chairs and a piece of the table. And someone one time came to visit him and he asked him, why do you have to live such a life of poverty, why? And he answered him with an analogy. He said, when you go out, when you're traveling, do you take your whole house with you in the car? Let's say you're going for like a couple days for a road trip. Are you going to take all your furniture and your sofa with you in the car? No, why not? Because you're going for a couple days, you're traveling, and you'll be back home. In your house, that's where you want to have the full beauty and the full furniture and decoration. But when you're traveling, he's like, in this world, I'm just on a journey. I'm just traveling. This is not the palace. This is, like we said before, it's the corridor on the way to the palace. These things don't matter to me. So we have a beautiful video.
To celebrate, you show in city streets.
Eighth Day is a popular Hasidic rock band. One of their hits was inspired by a powerful episode in the life of the second leader of the Hasidic movement, Rabbi Dovber of Mezrich.
A student goes to visit a sage, and the sage has nothing in his house. He says, where's your couches? Where's your chandelier? And he says back to the student, where's all your stuff? You just have a suitcase. And the student responds, but I'm just passing through. And that's when the sage says, aha, I'm just like you. I'm also just passing through.
To his student's assertion, Rabbi Dovber responded with a transformative insight.
That's when he said, I'm just like you. I'm just passing through, just like you. My heart wants to feel something that's real. My mind knows the body, treasures of another kind. And if you have to see about it, you and me.
This world is temporary, where people spend most of their life collecting stuff. And the sage tells them, I'm actually just like you. I also collect stuff. It's just not that type of stuff, not leather couches and chandeliers. I collect treasures of another kind. He stays focused on that higher goal.
Rabbi Dovber taught his students that this world's glitter is a distraction that expires when the journey of corporeality chugs to an abrupt end. Better to invest in treasures of a kind that will benefit the soul in its eternal destination.
Just like I'm just passing, just like you. My heart's something that's real, and my mind, treasures of another kind. And if you have it, see a palace for you and me, and my heart beat something that's real, and my mind, treasures of another kind. And if you had my eyes, you would see a palace for you and me, a palace you and
The reference to the palace is actually based on the text that we had just before, that this world is like a corridor on the way to the palace. So next week, just to give you a teaser into next week we're going to talk about the moment of death and the aftermath of death from the soul's perspective. What happens in that very moment and in the aftermath? What is it like and what happens? We're going to speak about preparations for burial, grave visitation, and can we have a relationship with people, with the souls that are departed after they pass away? Next week is week 2, so you're going to see, you can see on the bottom, lesson 2.
Okay, listen to.
Okay. You can take them home if you want, or you can leave them here. There is additional readings in the after the lesson, a few extra things which you can read, and there's also, if you go to so if death scares you, this is sort of to summarize, if death scares you, contemplate the eternality of the soul and do eternal things, because then you have nothing to be afraid of. And you can go to mygli.com/soul, has some short videos. First of all, has the videos that we played tonight and some other short videos that are sort of additional things. So mygli.com/soul, you can send me a message if you want. I'll send you everything, including the recording of this class. And yeah, look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you very much. I want to take this.
Yeah, please take it with you, and then you can bring it back next week with you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Yossi.
You're welcome, Rina.
There's only
Next week.
there's one question that I have. When somebody dies on Shabbat, they're called tzaddikim.
Interesting, yeah. Okay.
And I'm just wondering why. If we're all equals as neshaman and we go to paradise, why do people who die on Shabbat are considered tzaddikim? Like they don't
Very
have
good
to
question.
do Geulah.
And I will have to research for you. I don't have the answer. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
There is, yeah, it's, yeah, I don't know.
I know it has to do with their good deeds. So I just, okay, thank you. Thank you if you look that up. Thank you.
Can't choose the day of your
Exactly, right.
My father passed away on the first day of Nisan, and somebody told me then he was a tzaddik because he died on the.
Let me see if it's, okay, bye, Rina.
Okay, bye-bye.